Hello and welcome to This Week in Laker Football, your exclusive weekly look into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside West Bloomfield head coach Zach Hilbers. The Lakers coming off a rousing victory on Friday against Southfield A&T, defeating an undefeated Warriors team 31-20 at home. And it was a surprising victory in some ways because Southfield A&T had been firing on every cylinder coming into this week. What was the difference maker for your team in terms of taking care of business on Friday night and getting out to a hot start in that first half?
Well, it's everything we've kind of talked about all year. We knew we had the ability within us to go out there and play that complete of a game. But, we had done it as an offense for some games. We had done it as a defense for some games. And really for that first, 30 minutes of the game, we kind of put it all together and put ourselves in a position where we could, play safe and run the clock out, which we did a pretty good job of and kind of coasted to victory. But it was really encouraging. It was a lot of fun, and it was good to see the kids kind of realize that, the potential that we can get to.
Yeah, and playing against a team like that with the number of weapons they have, a blue-chip quarterback in Isaiah Marshall who's having a fantastic season, not only were you able to shut him down in the air, but for the most part, the run game also. What was the key to shutting down that offense that's been tearing really good teams apart all season long?
Well, it was giving them different looks. We were talking about it, just in our team meeting, walking down here, just mixing up what you do. You do the same thing every time. He's too good of a player, and, the supporting cast are too good to just kind of do the same thing the whole game. So we try to mix our looks up, mix our coverages up, mix our fronts up, and just kind of keep them off balance. That was our goal, and we think it worked in a lot of ways. So, hats off to the kids. They really, kind of embraced the challenge of the week and got the job done.
On the offensive side, putting up 31 points against this team, 28 in the first half. Southfield A&T was a team that previously this season had only given up 28 or more one time. What was the difference maker for you on the offensive side to be able to get really so far ahead of them, particularly in the run game?
Well, we knew they had played some really good teams, and like I said, they're a really good team too. But they hadn't played, we didn't think, anybody with our kind of team speed since week one when they played Cass Tech. And that was a pretty evenly matched game. And, teams grow a lot throughout the year. So we knew that, we at least had the ability to kind of exploit some things in their defense. And, it worked. And we were lucky enough to, execute cleanly where we put ourselves in a really good position.
That being said, in the second half, 14 points to your three in the second half, within a touchdown at the last second in that game to make it ultimately 31-20. What was the change? What adjustment do you think that they made in that second half that helped them get kind of out ahead of your team on the offensive side, different to what they had in the first half?
I don't really know, what they did. I know what our goal was that, when you go into halftime 28-0, the only way that they're going to get back in the game is if we make mistakes or if we give up big plays. So we switched some things up schematically on defense just to make sure they weren't going to get big plays. And for the next 14 minutes of game time, we had the ball for 11 minutes. So now we only got a field goal out of that. We drove the ball down the field. It had two kind of big holding penalties, which took some points off the board. But if you can eliminate 11 minutes and, they scored right out of half, but they didn't touch the ball again until it was the fourth quarter, right? And all of a sudden it's 31-8, and, we felt pretty comfortable, I guess.
West Bloomfield defeating Southfield A&T, giving them their first loss of the season last week at home. This week, they're taking on Oak Park. And Coach, what were the lasting lessons that you were telling and your staff were telling the kids from that game, going up against an undefeated team in a rivalry game on senior night and coming out with a really big win?
I guess, just to kind of enjoy it while it happens. The sport can be so volatile. There's ups and downs to the season. So it's important when you have an emotional game like that against a really good team and you play well to just, enjoy it for what it is. At the end of the day, it's a game. And, I know that we had a lot of fun last week, but at the same time, our message was, we're not done yet. The season's not over. We show what we can do. It's on us now to repeat that and don't let it be a one-time thing.
Yeah, Oak Park will be West Bloomfield's final matchup of the season on Friday. The Knights from the OAA White Division, West Bloomfield from the OAA Red, and then on to playoffs beginning this weekend when West Bloomfield learns where they will be in the 2023 MHSAA playoffs. We'll take a break on This Week in Laker Football. On the other side, we'll talk about the defense. A big part of that win on Friday was the secondary. Cornerback Bryce Rowe will join us next. Stay with us on This Week in Laker Football. Snap to Marshall. Pocket collapses, he goes forward, and he goes down. Brandon Davis Swain On the sack, the Punisher gets involved early.
Yeah, I mean, just a phenomenal play right there. He almost gets away. You see the pressure right up the middle immediately from Gabriel. He sidesteps it, thinks it's gone, but then Brandon Davis-Swain and Gabriel right there to bring him down.
This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home. Watch West Bloomfield Lakers football all season long on 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. Join Tyler Kieft and Matt Catoni each week for live, in-depth, and exclusive coverage before, during, and after the big game. It's your local high school football team on the road and in your backyard on your home for West Bloomfield Laker football, Civic Center TV, and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Looking for a score, a schedule, a story? MHSAA.com has you covered. Our newly redesigned website has everything you need to follow high school sports in Michigan. And it's optimized for mobile use. Fans can submit scores on a Friday night, check playoff pairings and game times, or read about the student athletes from your community. Your first stop is MHSAA.com. Connect with us online and get everything you need all in one place.
Missed one of our live broadcasts or one of your local municipal meetings? Check it out online at civiccentertv.com. Every meeting, show, and interview on demand. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football, your weekly exclusive look into the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Kieft, and this is Bryce Rowe, cornerback for West Bloomfield, a senior in his final year at West Bloomfield High School, heading to Central Michigan next fall. And it's been a great season for the secondary so far. You and Jameer leading that front, but the young guys have been stepping up too. How impressed have you been with some of these younger players in their first season and their first varsity reps?
I've been very impressed, especially with Jonathan Edison, who I think was on here earlier in the season, but him and Will Johnson have been stepping up very, very, very impactfully for us.
Yeah.
Whips, my bad. Whips.
Yeah, I mean, both of them, they're behaving like Will Johnson of the University of Michigan, shutting down these offenses. And last week in particular, that Southfield A&T team you guys went up against, if any team in this schedule has had the number of weapons that you need to defeat a West Bloomfield defense, it was them, especially in that wide receiver core. What was the difference maker for you, for Jameer, for these young guys in shutting down those weapons and knocking out those connections with Isaiah Marshall?
The different coverages we ran, we disguised a lot of coverages. We ran the different coverages. We did a lot of after-work practice and practice to get ready for these guys. We had a lot of our wide receivers like Marquise Morris, Nigel Dutton, Brandon Davis-Swain. A lot of different our own wide receivers here at West Bloomfield got us prepared for this game.
In what ways do you find that going up against that kind of competition week to week helps you prepare to play your best football on Fridays?
It just gives you a better game look. It gives you a better game speed, a better rep in practice. So it just gets you ready overall.
You're a D1 player going to Central Michigan next fall, and a lot of what goes into being a great player at this level is stuff that goes into being a great player at the next level. So as you've grown as a player at West Bloomfield High School, how has your approach to the game, to preparation, to game day on Friday or on the weekends in the playoff time, how has that changed over these years?
Just knowing that it can't change and knowing that adversity is always going to hit in the game, outside of the game, off the field, on the field. You just got to stay through the course and face it through all adversity.
Bryce Rowe with us on This Week in Laker Football. West Bloomfield cornerback heading to Central Michigan next fall, but still got plenty of football left at West Bloomfield this season. And when we talk about those young guys coming up as we did, and talk about your storied career here at West Bloomfield High School, an interception last week that was key, and plenty of involvement on the defensive side, breaking up passes and shutting down opportunities. For these young guys coming up in this system, whether they're at the middle school level, the freshman JV level, what did they need to do to make the most out of their high school career?
Just work outside of high school and on the field. When you come here, don't waste your time. Don't be in school and not getting in your books. All the simple things that people tell you need to do, those are the things that must be done.
Being a balanced person helps you, I would imagine, on the football field as it does overall in life. So, Bryce, outside of the game of football, what are some of your common interests?
Just hanging out, playing football, watching football, fantasy football. It's a lot of just football, to be honest with you.
You're talking about the Lions schedule and, who you're kind of worried about going forward with this Lions team that's been playing great football in their own right. So when you look at those next levels, those cornerbacks at the college and at the professional level, who are some of those guys that you look up to and maybe model your approach or your style of play?
Sauce Gardner from Michigan, of course. A lot of Michigan DBs just because we have a lot of products coming out of here. Maxwell Harrison I look at, Will Johnson, a lot of Coach K-Sign's own products. So it's just a lot of Michigan in-state DBs.
Yeah, and a lot of really great DBs that have come out of this state in past years of playing at the next level. Maxwell Hairston's been fantastic this season at Kentucky. You watched the game a few weeks ago. I tuned in to Kentucky's game, and as I tuned in, right that second, he's pulling in an interception. So these Lakers going on to the next level and having a stellar career. For you, what are you looking forward to the rest of this season and as you approach your football future at Central Michigan?
I'm looking forward to finishing the season with all my other seniors with me and just making sure we can come away with this season with something more than just a first-round loss or a disappointing ending and fighting our way all the way through.
If you can get past this Lakers defensive front, your next challenge is guys like Bryce Rowe, Jameer Benjamin, that young Lakers secondary, and those safeties. And a big challenge coming up this week for Oak Park. Bryce, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll take a break on This Week in Laker Football. On the other side, Coach Hilbers will rejoin me. We'll preview Oak Park and tell you more about how you can follow along with the Lakers all season. This is This Week in Laker Football. We'll be back next on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Sam Marshall talking it over with his offensive coordinator, Richard Pop, the former offensive coordinator at Brother Rice. Snap, looking to the sideline. Marshall got to roll out, passes up the field, and it is deflected and is picked off again in favor of West Bloomfield. Another turnover. Bryce Rowe finally gets the football.
I mean, really just, he may have already established himself as the star of tonight's game. 4 passes defended. Now, and an interception on the 4th one, just undercutting that pass, just a beautiful play. And really, the Lakers so far seem in very good position to pull off the upset.
Missed one of our live broadcasts or one of your local municipal meetings? Check it out online at civiccentertv.com. Every meeting, show, and interview on demand. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Take a break and tune in to the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Join Tyler Kieft and Diane Shaban as they go through headlines, events, and update you on the day-to-day in Oakland County. Catch us live weekdays 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Watch us on demand at civiccentertv.com. Or watch us on TV at Comcast Channel 15 or AT&T at Channel 99. This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Welcome back to This Week in Laker Football, your weekly look into everything about the West Bloomfield Lakers varsity football team, exclusively on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm Tyler Kieft alongside West Bloomfield head coach Zach Hilbers. Coming off a big game against a team like Southfield A&T, it's easy for especially young guys to get really high on that sort of a win. Going up against an undefeated team, we talked about it last week. It's a rivalry game. They got history with these guys. So starting off coming into this week, going up against Oak Park, how do you refocus your team after a big win, especially with the distance between those two teams on Friday night?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. You know, it's almost like if you could make the schedule, which obviously you can't, we would have made that Southfield game week 9, so it's just that we carry that momentum right into the playoffs. But, you know, it doesn't work that way. So we just talked to the team about how, you know, Oak Park's a team that's fighting for their season right now. They're right on the brink of the playoffs of Division II. Coach Carter is a tremendous coach. He's been doing it for a really long time. And, you know, really high character guys. Teams play with a ton of effort. They're backed into a corner. They're not going to back down. And like I said, they're fighting for their season.
Yeah, and this is a program that had been to the playoffs 9 consecutive times before this 2-year drought, and this is a chance for them to get a big win. And much like you guys last week, collect a lot of playoff points in the process. So how important is this game, and how important are you preaching to your team that this week is? You guys are in the playoffs, you're going to have a good position, but this can only help.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they definitely have different motivating factors than us. You know, for us, now that we've kind of solidified our spot, it's about improving on us as a team, making sure that we're ready to play in week 10, 11, 12, and hopefully further on than that. But, what that comes down to is really analyzing ourselves, analyzing our weaknesses and what we need to get better at. And if we can do that this week, we'll be in a good spot to go out and compete on Friday and hopefully win. But, you get in that business of thinking that, just because you beat Southfield that you're going to show up and beat somebody else. It doesn't work that way.
Lakers taking on Oak Park this week at 6 o'clock. We filmed this show on Monday, a little inside football for you. And some news that came in today is a change of location, Coach. You're going to have the game be at home at West Bloomfield High School rather than on the road, but at the same time, 6 o'clock. How does that change the dynamic of game day, being that the location is in a different spot than it was originally intended to be, and B, that game's going to happen an hour earlier?
Well, it's always nice to play at home, and it's not for the same reasons you would see in like college football or professional football with the crowds. I mean, we do get a better turnout at home, but it's really about your routine. You know what I mean? You don't have to ride the bus for 30 minutes or 40 minutes. It might not seem like much, but when you got that many young kids sitting on a bus, it's just a lot easier to keep them here, keep them together, keep them focused on the task at hand when you don't have to travel. All right. But outside of that, like, it doesn't change too much for us. Like, we still have a job to do, and whether it's here, there, neutral, like, it's our job to show up and be ready to go. So look, it got moved here, and we'll be ready for it.
A lot of teams at the end of a regular season, especially when they know they're going to be playing extra football in the postseason, they use that final week as one more chance to get themselves some playoff points, have a strong performance, and perfect their game plan, but also sort of as a dress rehearsal for the intensity of playoff football. How do you balance that as you're preparing for a game against Oak Park, but knowing you got a lot of football hopefully left to play this fall?
Yeah, it's definitely, like you said, it's definitely a balance where you can kind of script practice differently, knowing that you have like almost a 2-week goal. So obviously we're playing on Friday, and we have to be ready to go and compete, and hopefully at our best, and carry over our success from the last couple weeks. But at the same time, our goal is to do everything we can to make sure that a week from now we're also at our best. Whether that's keeping guys healthy that might have been dinged up Friday night or previous weeks and holding them out, or really just getting other guys looks, seeing like where guys can contribute on the field, if we make a playoff run, building some depth on your special teams and on your roster.
So, Coach, earlier on, we didn't talk about this because I felt like this would be a better conversation to have about preparing for this final week and looking forward. Near the end of that game, we know it's a rivalry game. A lot of these guys have prior relationships. There's a lot of back and forth conversation. And at times, things got a little bit chippy. After plays, you had an ejection late in the game also as a result of some unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. At this time of the year, how much more important does it become for your team to maintain their composure and discipline, play after play, game after game, knowing that every little bit of impact you have on the field spreads throughout the rest of the season and could impact whether you go home on a Friday night?
Well, you're absolutely right. I guess first of all, it wasn't an ejection. The referees sent him off the field for a play, which they're allowed to do to de-escalate a situation. So we double check with that, and that's all that was, which is better, I guess, but it's still not ideal because if you're in like you said, maybe you're in a closer game or you're in a playoff game, one play can make a difference, right? And, it was a really emotional game, and I thought for the most part we really held our composure really well until the end when I think the kids started to realize that, like, hey, we did it, and we got the job done. They kind of lost their minds a little bit. So, yeah, definitely there's a message about, I guess, finishing the job, right? We were great all week about it. We were great all game about it. It was really, the last 5 minutes of game time, 15 minutes of real time. We just got to finish the job and do that. Because you're right, you get down to the playoffs, like, sometimes it's one play, sometimes it's seconds within a play that can really make a difference.
In terms of Oak Park, you mentioned their team has been vastly improving over the course of this season. Coming into this week, 3-5. That's a big improvement over a season ago when they hadn't won a game. And so when you're looking at this Oak Park team, what are some of the key points you think of from offensively and defensively of this year's Knights? Well, they got some tough, strong kids, it looks like. So their linebacking core looks really good. They tackle well. They got some guys those kids play running back too, and they run really hard. Just from talking with Coach Carter, he says it's one of the best all-around group of kids he's had in a while. So I know they're just going to come and give everything they have. Oak Park coming into West Bloomfield on Friday night. 6 o'clock game, a little bit earlier as the game's been moved to West Bloomfield. We'll have live coverage of it beginning right around 5 o'clock with our program here, and all that can be found on civiccentertv.com/Lakers Sports. Coach, your final thoughts going into this last week of the regular season as you look forward to hopefully a very long playoff season also.
Well, like I said earlier, it's really about making sure that we're achieving at our best. You know, we played Southfield, a team that likes to balance run and pass last week. Oak Park's traditionally a little bit more run heavy, so it'll be similar game plan to like Oxford. And you have to be able to win football games different ways, right? So we'll have to focus on these guys, try to take away their strengths, and again, amplify our game to get where it needs to be.
Last few weeks, Lakers have been able to really show very well how they can adjust and change their game plans and play a variety of different styles of football that could play a factor on Friday with, as the coach just said, a very run-heavy team in Oak Park. Coach, appreciate you joining us and appreciate you for being with us as well on This Week in Laker Football. Come back early on every single week for your latest updates on the West Bloomfield High School varsity football team. And as always, you can follow along with us on civiccentertv.com/Lakers Sports. For the entire West Bloomfield High School Athletic Department and our team at Civic Center TV, I'm Tyler Kieft, thanking you for joining us on This Week in Laker Football.